Welcome everybody. So today also let us see some of the applications of GIS. So in our previous class we saw the general applications and in detail the applications of geological mapping and interpretation, and we saw another case study in mining and mineral exploration. So today we will move on to the third application. So third application is applying GIS for groundwater exploration and groundwater resource evaluation. So for groundwater management, see this groundwater exploration, water exploration and evaluation. So exploration means finding or spotifying the place where you will find enough groundwater. Right. So this process involves defining the issue, generate the strategies and incorporate GIS application. So first of all you have to define what is the issue, what is the purpose. Then you have to generate the strategies related to this purpose and then incorporate the GIS according to your application. Issues, mandates and opportunities pertaining to groundwater management are public education. So what are the issues involved in the groundwater management? Public education, non-point source pollutant loadings, stormwater management, flood damage reductions, surface water control plans, water quality assessment, open space for watershed protection, water supply management, wastewater management, land development management, aquatic habitat restorations, etc. So for all these purposes, or these are the many issues in groundwater management. So for all these are some of the various fields of groundwater management or some of the issues which the current world is facing today in groundwater management. So application for analysis are soils, impervious surfaces, land use and land cover, groundwater recharge, riparian areas and open space. Riparian areas means the river banks, the areas near to the water bodies, that is riparian areas. So the usual scale include basins, sub-basins, watershed, sub-watershed, mini watershed and micro watersheds. The following information can be derived by linking soil data with the soil survey geographic database. That is erodibility, agricultural capability. So agricultural capability includes septic absorption fields, lawns and landscaping. And the following information can be derived by linking soil data with the soil survey geographical database. So we saw lawns and in agricultural capability, the informations which you can link the soil with the survey of GIS are septic absorption fields, lawns and landscapings, dwellings, small commercial buildings and local roads and streets. Also, the land use or land cover data can be used to that means land use data, how the land, how if you are taking a particular land, how the land is used currently. So that data can be used for studying or for calculating the change in a period of time in the land use or land cover types. So how you can study this? You can estimate, you can predict what will be the future. So the land uses can be of following types, that is urban land, agricultural land, forest, water, wetlands, barren lands, etc. And these data can be used to inform the analysis such as groundwater recharge, riparian areas and open space. So you can find from which source you can get the enough or you required water, or where the which water bodies has to be restored, etc. So groundwater recharge combines land use, land covers, soils and precipitation data to estimate the amount of groundwater recharge for any area. Also the riparian area, you can see here, see this is a water body, a stream, and this area is called a riparian area near the banks of the stream, that is riparian area. So riparian area data are created by combining relevant features into one GIS data set: water, adjacent wetlands, wetland transition areas, flood areas, adjacent hydric and alluvial soil. Okay, so you can see this is an example how GIS is used for determining the riparian area. Okay, see here you can see these portions are stream. So this portion, this dark portions are riparian areas. So the methodology used for integrated groundwater quality mapping. So you can use topographic sheets, satellite data, field data, existing data. So see, these all types of data can be fed into GIS, and thematic map generation can be used for GIS and thematic map generation. So topographic sheets you can give it directly, and existing data also you can give it directly. The satellite data, they may be subjected to digital image processing, and then you have to use it for map generation. Again, the field data should also be subjected to groundwater sampling, GW sampling, groundwater sampling, then perform the chemical analysis, then you can use it for thematic map generation. So while creating the thematic map generation, you can have spatial analysis. So spatial analysis can be done for irrigation water as well as for drinking water. Then spatial integration, so you can combine these both or any other data, and then with the help of these details, these analysis, you can develop groundwater quality map. That means from which source you can create or you can generate water for drinking, or you can get the water for drinking, and from which source, which spatial analysis, which spot, which geographical location the water is available, that can be used for irrigation purpose. So our fourth example is applying GIS for environmental analysis. So the main aim of doing environmental analysis is to accumulate information pertaining to the environment and to understand the environmental processes and linkages. And the main objective is to gather information pertaining to environmental phenomena and processes, and also to gain understanding and insight. So you all know what are the different environmental issues. So one issue may be the pollution issue. Another, that is, the pollution can be due to gaseous pollution, water pollution, land pollution. So all these are our environmental issues. So you can use the GIS for analyzing the environmental issues. Okay, you can see here, you have a particular land, and this land consists of See, this land can be classified into different layers for preparing the GIS map. Okay, so these are the different features presenting in this particular land area. Environmental problems are spatial problems. Why it is spatial problems? Because you have to locate the geographical location for analyzing the environmental problem in that particular location. Environmental data can almost always be geo-referenced, and therefore GIS serves as an ample tool for environmental analysis. GIS for environmental analysis is used to explore the spatial relationships, patterns and process of geographic, biological and physiological phenomena. Geospatial analysis offers insight about the environment and reveals management options through surface interpolation, temporary analysis and 3D analysis. So what I have explained earlier. Okay, this is just for your understanding an example. So a GIS application where you have forecasted the wave height, forecasted the wave height in terms of feet for the hurricane Ivan. Okay. So another example is for the same hurricane Ivan, the wind speed has been forecasted. Now the fifth example is disaster management. So you know the disasters like earthquakes, hurricanes, storms, etc. So disasters are unpredictable extreme spatial events because they all starts from a particular place. If you take earthquake starts from the focus. So focus is a spatial geospatial reference point. Okay, and that is a spatial event because that event is taking place in a particular space. So disaster, then see, because of that the earthquake is traveling towards the other regions. So disasters are unpredictable extreme spatial events in the natural or man-made environment. How it can be natural, how it can be man-made. See, for example, earthquake is a natural event, bomb blast is a man-made event. So while during bomb blast also, the same waves travels similar to earthquake. Okay. So disasters cannot be foreseen but can be dealt in such a way that the impact can be reduced to a great extent by strategic planning and making use of the available analysis tools developed by the advancements in software technology. How? A simple example I can give you is predicting the earthquake. See, earthquakes cannot be foreseen because you cannot predict earthquake is going to happen at this particular time. No, never you can predict it. But what you can do is you can do some research on early warning system. You can see if you see the earthquake waves, they are primary waves as well as secondary waves. See, primary waves are of low intensity but the secondary waves are of high intensity. But see, there is a time gap difference between the occurrence of the primary waves and secondary waves. So you can predict this time. So if you can predict this time, you can give a warning system so that you can avoid some accidents. So in that way, you can reduce the impact of earthquake to a great extent. So any disaster management activity will have broadly 6 phases in a cycle. So these are the disaster management activities, the cycle in disaster management. So first is prediction. So predicting the disaster, then prevention. So once you predict it, you have to prevent it to the maximum. Then preparedness. So if any calamities or some natural disaster occurs, you be prepared for that. Then mitigation, you analyze it. Emergency management and rescue, and disaster recovery and rehabilitation. So these are the 6 phases of disaster management system. So any rescue management system will involve locating the sites accurately in the least permissible time. So if earthquake is occurring, you have to predict, you have to accurately locate the site exactly where the earthquake has occurred and what are the other areas which had impact due to this earthquake. Then reduces the critical time element involved in the activities. Accurate data about the resource available at the place of interest. Accessibility of information between source and destination. Correct means of alarming the resources and real-time visualization of the area of interest. So advantages of just disaster management. Locating the site of accident becomes very simple and accurate if you use this data. The accessibility can be analyzed more accurately. Finding out required resources becomes simple, speedy and accurate. Finding out optimum routes between different resource locating to accident site helps in topographic and demographic analysis to improve the effectiveness in planning and implementation activities. So topographic analysis depends on the land. The demographic analysis depends upon the humans, depending upon the lives. Provides buffer analysis to facilitate effective dynamic planning. Provides easy means to add and update the records of database. Improved operational efficiency as spatial and non-spatial data on individual database. Okay. So now, how this transportation system is helpful for you for this GIS can be applied in transportation system. So that is GIS T. T means transportation. Okay. So the GIS used for transport application is known as Geographic Information Systems for Transportation. So GIS T applications are currently used broadly by transportation analysts and decision makers in different areas of transportation, planning and engineering, from infrastructure planning, design and management, traffic safety analysis, transportation impact analysis, and public transit planning and operations to intelligent transportation systems. See, this is another important area of research going on today in transportation engineering, that is intelligent transportation systems. Even in buildings, we go for intelligent buildings. So everything is intelligent and they should be smart enough. What do you mean by smart? See, when some error occurs or when some unpredictable events occur, your building should perform intelligently. That is intelligent systems. So when we apply the intelligent systems for transportation, we call it as intelligent transportation systems. So what are the different topics related to GIS transportation, GIS in transportation? So for data representations, analysis and modeling, and applications. So in data representation, that is in case of transportation, in case of data representations, this GIS can study the GIS in transportation studies have employed both vector and raster GIS data models. We know what is vector and raster. Okay, we have studied it in detail to represent the relevant geographic data. See, nowadays the transportation has developed a lot. The development of a country greatly depends upon the network, that is the transportation networks. Okay, so we can use both vector and raster data models to represent the geographical data to analyze the transportation network. One critical component of GIS in transportation is how we can best represent the transportation related data in the GIS environment in order to facilitate and integrate the needs of various transportation applications. And existing GIS data models provides a good foundation of supporting many GIS in transportation applications. Okay, see, this is one example of transportation network. So you can see the major networks and minor networks of Boston City. Okay, another networks. So that is an example. So you can take your own study area and you can implement your GIS. So you can take a particular area, you can collect the transportation data from the transportation department, you can apply it to the GIS so that you can develop the GIS network. So that by doing so you can see which are the new places, remote places where the transportation facilities are not available. So it just helps you a lot in developing the transportation networks. Okay, so like many other fields, the transportation has developed its own unique analysis methods and models. See, for transportation purpose, these models has been developed. That is shortest path and routing algorithms, spatial interaction models, network flow problems, facility location problems, travel demand models, and land use transportation interaction models. So depending upon your application, you can use any of these models for analyzing your problem. Okay, so GIS in T application. So in transportation, you can apply what are the different fields of application in transportation where you can use GIS. So trade area analysis, marketing, manage land records. So both are same, manage land records, transportation logistics, asset management, site selection, sales management, risk analysis, urban planning, and customer profiling. So for all these areas you can use GIS in transportation applications. Okay, the next example today what we are going to see is demographic analysis. See, demographic analysis is related to people or population. Okay. So GIS in demographic analysis is done for population estimation. Related spatial analytic tools are used to provide greater understanding of the spatial patterning of demographic trends over time. So what is the population of a particular area. So in the previous class we saw we can take a particular area and you can classify this into different zones according to the population from 1 to 10,000, 10,000 to 20,000, like that. So you can use both direct method and indirect method. So in direct method it tracks the construction and occupation of housing units. So you calculate the housing units, you analyze the housing units, you record the house, you track the housing units. Then you can relate this housing units with the population. That is direct method. Now indirect method tracks the component of change through an accounting procedure. So indirect method means you can calculate the births, deaths, migration of individuals in and out of a given geography. So you have to collect these many data, then you can apply it using then you call it as indirect method. So population estimation is done based on accurate allocation of events through a process known as geocoding, which converts descriptive locations to geo-referenced locations. That is in terms of XY coordinates. That is what is called geocoding. See, transforming the descriptive location to geo-referenced location. So any particular location, see, we live in a place, we are in a place. What does your Google map or your location map in your mobile phone uses? It gives you the location in terms of X and Y coordinates, right? That is called geocoding. This is achieved by referencing an address to a location on a road network. The process is also known as road network. So thank you. That's all for today. A few more applications are there that we will see in the next class. Thank you.